Hello, everyone. Welcome to our channel. Today, we have something truly special and profound. A channeled letter from the legendary singer Janis Joplin. Through this message, we will dive into Janis's reflections, regrets, and hopes, a rock icon who left a significant mark on music history with her powerful voice and intense life. For those unfamiliar with this incredible artist's journey, let me provide a brief introduction to her life and legacy. Janis Lynn Joplin was born on January 19, 1943, in Port Arthur, Texas, USA. From a young age, Janis stood out for her distinctive vocal talent and passion for music. In the 1960s, she became a central figure in the counterculture and psychedelic movement in San Francisco, leading the band Big Brother and the Holding Company before embarking on a solo career. Janis Joplin released unforgettable albums like Cheap Thrills and Pearl, and had hits such as Piece of My Heart, JJ Cry Baby, G and Yummy and Bobby McGee. Her emotional and raspy performance, combined with an electrifying stage presence, established her as one of the greatest vocalists of all time. Unfortunately, Janis's life was marked by struggles with loneliness and addiction. On October 4, 1970, at the age of 27, Janis Joplin passed away from a heroin overdose, leaving a huge void in the music world. Despite her brief career, her cultural and musical impact remains alive, inspiring generations of musicians and fans around the globe. Now, I invite you to connect with Janis Joplin's essence through this channeled letter. Prepare for an emotional journey as her words reveal valuable lessons and offer a new perspective on her life and legacy. Before we delve into the touching words of this channeled letter, I'd like to make a special request. If you'd like, leave your name or the name of a loved one in the comments. This way, we can include them in our prayer group, which meets every Friday at 6 p.m. at our center. Our goal is to provide spiritual support during difficult times through our prayers and positive vibrations. For those who haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I encourage you to do so now. By subscribing and liking our videos, you help us continue sharing these transformative messages with more people. Together, we can spread the light and knowledge that guide us on our earthly journey. Message received. Let's embark on this spiritual and musical journey together. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing videos. And now, without further ado, let's hear the message from our sister. Janis Joplin.
On the night of October 4, 1970, a Sunday, I was walking the streets of Los Angeles toward the hotel where I was staying, the Landmark Motor, now known as Egan Gardens Hotel. The week had been exhausting due to the recording sessions for the album Pearl. I walked along the sidewalk, surrounded by the flashing lights of shop windows, with a bottle of Southern Comfort in my bag, and the longing for my boyfriend David Niehaus and my friend Linda Gravenites in my heart. On February 6 that year, I arrived in Rio de Janeiro to spend a few vacation days and enjoy the sun at Copacabana. I was trying to escape the monotony, seeking refuge below the equator, where sin was supposedly absent. It was on the beach promenade that I met a young Dutch tourist, Niehaus. Despite the endless party nights, with Brazil preparing for Carnival and 90 million inhabitants excited for the World Cup in Mexico, Niehaus supported me in my attempt at abstinence, as did Linda Gravenites, the fashion designer who always accompanied me on trips and shows. Upon returning to the United States, my boyfriend encountered passport issues and was held to explain why he had overstayed in the country. I returned alone to the house I had bought in Larkspur, a town in Marin County, California, where Linda, who had arrived earlier, was waiting for me. The recording sessions for Pearl were also waiting. David Niehaus arrived 2 days later and found me once again immersed in my travels. A trip he had planned with me to the Himalayas, after finishing the recordings, was cancelled. Exhausted from the attempts, he left. Linda Gravenites also gave up. The verse of my song Piece of My Heart echoed as I saw myself alone opening the door to my room in that hotel. That night, I was faced with a desolate environment, an endless desert where fish jumped, echoing the delirium of an iconic verse from Summertime. I turned on the answering machine next to the bed, a novelty in phones at that time, and heard a message from my producer Paul Rothschild, reminding me of the vocal recording for the instrumental track Buried Alive in the Blues on Monday, the last session to complete the album. In Los Angeles, I had no close friends nearby at that moment. I remembered John Lennon, with whom I had talked about the end of the Beatles and who would be celebrating his birthday on the 9th. I recorded a birthday song in the studio to surprise him on the day. I also thought about my friend with whom I had long conversations, actor and singer Chris Christopherson, who had traveled to England for the Isle of Wight festival. I'll someday write a song that explains what it's like to make love to 2,500 people during a show, and then go home alone, I said in an interview. The spacious and lonely hotel room evoked that unwritten song, which echoed incessantly inside me. With all these events, abstinence overwhelmed me. Each dose felt like diving into a more vibrant world, a journey after a long period of not using. It was like feeling thirst in the desert and continuously quenching that thirst. I sank into that world even against my will, unable to resist. However, that session was different from the previous ones. Numb from the drugs, I felt disconnected from the world, experiencing something completely different. It was an unfamiliar and confusing sensation. I didn't know if I was dead, or if it was just the effect of the drugs. Anxiety began to overtake me. Shadows approached, surrounding me and sitting beside me, watching me with smiles while I remained motionless. I felt paralyzed, able to move only my eyes as they screamed and mocked me, accusing me of trading the world and its riches for drugs. I couldn't distinguish their faces, only hearing screams, laughter, and insults. They tried to drag me to a place they thought I deserved, but I didn't want to go. Life was only good when I wasn't drunk or high. One of these shadows pulled me, dragging me into an abyss. I tried to hold on to my body, but it was useless. I was dragged to a place covered in mud, where the sky was not visible, only hearing screams and moans. In that place, I was nobody, just a spirit immersed in drugs, completely helpless. I felt nausea and pain throughout my body. I thought it was a drug-induced hallucination, an overdose from which I would wake up in a hospital with headlines saying, "Janis was hospitalized for an overdose." But it wasn't that. It was real. I was really dead, sunk into hell. I lived my life as I wanted, and it led me to this place. What would become of me now? I didn't know. Every moment in that place felt like an eternity, a dimension of endless suffering. What terrified me the most was the uncertainty of what would come next. Trapped in a condition I had created for myself, I was dragged to a dark and sinister place, known as the Valley of Lamentations. There, among dense shadows, spirits cried and lamented in eternal agony. Yet, inside me there was no room for lamentation. I had already confronted and accepted the sins of my life. What remained was the urgency to escape that nightmare. I had no physical body to feel the throbbing pain or the nausea that plagued me. Everything in that place was disturbingly strange. I was cast into this dimension, surrounded by the incessant echo of wailing voices. Those spirits, immersed in pain and pleading for help, turned the environment into an unbearable whirlwind. I shouted for them to be quiet, ordered them to suffer in silence, but my words evaporated. The situation intensified, dragging me into an abyss of despair. Amidst all this, a voice emerged from nowhere, calling me out. The light guide, responsible for leading lost spirits, introduced himself. He was there to help those like me who could not find a way to rest. It was a comforting voice, promising to guide me away from that terrifying and painful dimension. I just had to follow the light and trust in the transition process. The guide offered me comfort and the promise that I would not be alone on this journey. It was the beginning of a new cycle, an opportunity to learn and evolve. I realized that my journey was just beginning, a process of reflection and understanding the choices I had made. The transition to the afterlife was not an end, but a new phase of growth. This is how I began to move away from the Valley of Lamentations, following the light and the guidance of the guide. The darkness gave way to a more serene environment, and the anguished voices began to recede. The guide led me to a space of peace where I could reflect on my life and begin to find the path to reconciliation with my past. I hope that my story, my mistakes, and my learning serve as a lesson to everyone. Life is precious and every choice counts. The journey doesn't end with death, but continues in a new plane of existence. May we learn and grow from our experiences, always seeking light and understanding. This is the message I wish to leave with you.
End of message. Janis Joplin, one of the most iconic and influential figures in rock and roll, led a life full of intense emotions and contradictions. Born on January 19, 1943, in Port Arthur, Texas, Joplin grew up in a traditional and conservative environment marked by religion and family values. From an early age, she showed a deep love for music, especially blues, a genre she enjoyed in secret. This love for music shaped her life and career in ways she likely could not have imagined as a child. During her youth, Janis faced a series of personal challenges. She was a shy young woman who was often bullied because of her weight, acne, dressing style, and primarily, her shyness. These experiences left deep emotional scars, leading to a continuous battle with depression and bulimia. To cope with her suffering, Janis began drinking alcohol and, eventually, using heavier drugs. This increasing substance use was both an attempt to escape the pain and a way to deal with the rejection she felt. In 1960, Janis began her academic journey at the University of Texas in Austin, where she studied visual arts. Despite her formal education, her true passion was music. Encouraged by friends who admired her voice, she started performing at karaoke bars and local pubs. Although her initial shyness meant she could only loosen up after drinking, this habit of drinking to overcome shyness eventually evolved into an addiction that would profoundly impact her life and career. In 1963, determined to pursue her passion for music, Janis dropped out of college and moved to San Francisco. The city, known for its vibrant and countercultural atmosphere, provided Janis with a platform to launch her music career. She began performing at folk clubs, but her drug and alcohol use continued to be a growing problem. Life in San Francisco also brought a series of emotional and personal challenges, with Janis trying to balance professional success and her internal struggles. Her return to Port Arthur in 1966 was an attempt to reconnect with her family, who disapproved of her lifestyle. During this period, she entered a rehabilitation clinic to address her drug addiction. Although the stay helped stabilize her temporarily, returning to San Francisco marked the beginning of a new phase in her career. Janis joined the band Big Brother and the Holding Company, which signed with Mainstream Records and released their first album in 1967. Although the initial album was not a major success, the band gained notoriety after a standout performance at the Monterey Pop Festival that same year. Janis's performance, especially her rendition of "A Ball and Chain," was a turning point for her career. Success continued with the release of the band's second album, Cheap Thrills, in 1968. This album not only cemented Janis's status as a rising star, but also established her as a dominant force in the music scene of the time. The song "A Piece of My Heart" reached #1 on the Billboard charts and became one of the biggest hits of her career. Janis's increasing visibility also came with heightened pressure and expectations, exacerbating her personal struggles. By late 1968, Janis decided to leave Big Brother and the Holding Company to form the Cosmic Blues Band. In 1969, her performance at Woodstock was one of the most memorable moments of the event, showcasing her ability to capture the audience's attention and admiration. Known for her bohemian lifestyle and extravagant fashion sense, Janis stood out not only for her music, but also for her impact on fashion and culture. Despite her success, Janis faced a series of personal challenges. She was bisexual and had several significant relationships, including one with writer Peggy Caserta. Additionally, she had 2 engagements but never married. Her love life was intense and tumultuous, reflecting the emotional complexity she carried. In 1968, Janis became pregnant and, due to uncertainty about the paternity, terminated the pregnancy in a back alley clinic in Mexico. The procedure was poorly done and nearly killed her, resulting in a severe hemorrhage that left her hospitalized for weeks. This traumatic experience had a lasting impact on her emotional and physical health, deepening her depression and worsening her drug use. In February 1970, Janis traveled to Brazil to participate in the carnival in Rio de Janeiro and used the opportunity to attempt to get clean at a rehabilitation clinic. During this time, she started a relationship with David George Niehaus, an American tourist, which ended when he caught her cheating with an ex-girlfriend. Although Janis had been drug-free for 3 weeks, her addiction and emotional struggles continued to be a constant challenge. By late 1970, Janis was focused on her solo career, working on a new album. On the night of October 3rd, she went to the hotel bar where she was staying, drank excessively, and had a relapse with heroin. The next day, October 4th, 1970, Janis was found dead in her hotel room in California from an overdose. She was only 27 years old, joining the tragically infamous E27 Club, a list of music icons who died at 27, including Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison. Janis's posthumous album, Pearl, released in 1971, included tracks recorded before her death. However, one of the songs she had planned to record on the day of her death was never recorded. Janis Joplin's career, though brief, left a lasting impact on the music scene. She is remembered as one of rock's greatest legends, and her life and legacy continue to inspire and resonate with fans and artists worldwide. Her unparalleled talent, personal struggles, and distinctive style ensure that Janis Joplin will never be forgotten, remaining a central figure in the history of rock and roll. But what do you think of the letter? Do you believe the words align with the real Janis? Comment and share your opinion, as it is essential to us. Remember, our goal is to convey the message and never to denigrate any religion or belief. Thank you for sticking with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and activate the bell to not miss a single video. May the peace of the Lord be with you and your families.
Lake in about 8 years, man.
Really?
No, we flew over one last week. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not much on sports.
Did I seem to walk strangely as I came out here tonight?
I should have watched closer.
Well, you were back there, but
Yeah.
I water ski for the first time over the weekend.